Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, I'm so pleased to have Rusty West. He's the co-founder and president of mScan Information Systems, which behind the scenes is powering the majority of digital retailing computations. Rusty, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you, Brian.
So, Rusty, for people who are not familiar with mScan, can we get a little elevator summary of the company, how long it's been around, and what your current focus of the company is today?
Sure. So company was founded in September of '88, so about a little over 30 years ago. Originally, we developed a desking tool to address leasing, new vehicle leasing only. And then we obviously have, morphed into used vehicle leasing, retail finance contracts and that kind of stuff. But for the first probably 25 years of our life, it was all around providing software directly to car dealerships, some kind of a desking solution of some description. And through that process, our whole kind of business philosophy has always been that there's only one scientifically perfect solution to any automotive transaction. Anything that's less than perfect just is unacceptable. So in order to get to those perfect solutions, we had to figure out how to aggregate all of the data from the lending institutions, from the OEMs, from the municipalities and all that. And through that process, we ended up having a calculation engine and a database and a technology for electronically aggregating all of this data that was unparalleled in the industry. And we kind of always had this vision of being able to power other companies in the space, but the technology kind of didn't exist, and digital retailing really wasn't all that popular, many years ago. But as digital retailing came into play, our business really shifted, and now the majority of the business that we do is powering other technologies, and we still have large suite of products that we market directly to car dealerships. We've got a suite of products that we market to lending institutions and OEMs as well. But the bulk of our business is powering other digital retailing technologies. So calculating payments for them.
One of the things that I loved about your website is your real-time counter. Can we talk about the mScan API and that counter that just blows my mind? I don't think people understand how robust your platform really is.
Yeah, thanks. So the counter is kind of one of my favorite things. We've got monitors all around our office that show how many payments we quote per day, how many payments we've quoted month to date. We've got a map that shows how many rooftops we're powering for different digital retailing companies, and we're quoting on average about maybe about 85 million penny certain payments every day. It's the 25th of the month right now, and we're a little over 2.25 billion payments calculated for the day, or for the month, sorry. This month, we're actually, it's kind of the first time we've done something fun with that. We've got a contest, a LinkedIn contest, where whoever guesses closest to the actual number of payments we quote for the month is going to win an iPad Pro. So, and we've got,
wow.
and we, we're doing it obviously for, a little bit of marketing reasons, more so to kind of build our LinkedIn following, count, get that up. But it's been overwhelming, the number of people who have signed up for it so far. And some of the guesses are actually guys have been sitting there with a calculator trying to figure out, okay, well, how many minutes are there in a month? Because there's some guesses that look like they're pretty close. So
cool.
It should be interesting to see how it rolls out.
Where would a dealer listening to today's show see that counter?
We post it about every couple of days. We post the number of payments that we've quoted on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that. Yeah, we don't have that link published, right? It's kind of an internal thing that we do.
Yeah, that's fine.
But all of our dealerships can see the actual number of payments quoted per month through our mPortal product, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about through the interview. But it's a free service that we offer to all car dealerships, and they can see what's going on through mPortal.
So Rusty, most dealers might be familiar with mDesking, right? Because you've proven that you can create penny perfect deals from any combination of lenders. and integrating all the incentives and rebates. So let's talk about mDesking before we talk about the API, which is driving a lot of the digital retailing tools. How wide of market utilization as far as dealer rooftops are using that desking platform today?
So we're in approximately 6,000 rooftops currently. The actual number as of right now is 5,787. I can see the little ticker outside of my window. And that mix is probably, I don't know, 15%, maybe 20% are our direct dealer products, and the rest of them are through our digital retailing partners through our mScan API product. So.
Great. So for dealers who are listening to today's podcast, when we say API, this is an application program interface. It's just an acronym that describes how two different software platforms can speak to each other in the cloud. So I'm not asking you to name your customers, Rusty, but we've talked about this off the record that since you've been in this business so long, and since you have the most robust automated payment calculations and integrations into the OEM, it makes, well, really a smart business choice for smaller companies that are coming in and focusing on the in-store experience or the integration with CRM and tablets in the showroom to power their product by your API. What's your primary market message to any digital retailing companies out there or future companies that are looking to get in this space? Why mScan?
So we think that the consumer receiving a consistent message for every step of his journey is absolutely paramount. I've listened to several of pretty much all of your podcasts on this series, and it's fascinating to me because everyone you speak to kind of has the exact same message, which is, when consumer goes and they see they see a price or a payment, it's $400 a month, $1,500 up front. There's full transparency, and then in another section that's representing the same dealership, they see a payment that's different, and it might vary by $100 a month, $50 a month. The consumer loses confidence in the dealership, and it's not the dealership's fault. The problem lies in that the dealership's terms and conditions under which they're willing to sell their vehicle aren't being represented accurately. Lending institutions' information is not being represented accurately. The OEM's rebates and incentives might not be represented accurately. And taxation, all that kind of stuff might not be taken into consideration properly either. So if the payments that are quoted to the consumer for every step of their journey are calculated using real-time, up-to-date live data and a penny certain calculation engine, then the payments that they see everywhere will be exactly the same, assuming the scenario stays the same. And if that doesn't happen, then the whole process falls apart.
Yeah, I have talked to many folks in this space, and of course the challenge is integrating all the dealers' F&I products, accessories. Obviously, the elephant in the corner of the room is addendums and where they show up in the pricing. When you think of today's consumer, Rusty, you have all the information. If somebody builds a digital retailing tool which allows a consumer to get everything, all the information they would get if they were in the dealership, do you think that the consumer knows how to pencil their own deal? Meaning, if given all the tools, do you think today they have the experience to do it?
0%. I think that the lending institutions that are in the marketplace now, the large ones, the Ally Financials, the U.S. banks in particular, create super complex programs to target the market, to kind of gain the market share that they covet. We actually help them. We work with a lot of lending institutions with our mGauge product, which is an analytic tool. So you've got all these crazy complex programs out there that are designed to entice a consumer to say, hey, I want to go ahead and take advantage of that $300 a month offer or whatever. All the elements that go into that, a lot of times the finance managers, the sales managers of the dealerships don't really know how to apply them. So I think, our goal is to simplify the entire process. There's a lot of digital retailing philosophies out there where if you give the consumer the tools to kind of desk their own deal, meaning they can change certain variables, and those variables have a cause and effect, right? If I want my payment to go down, it's easy. I've got a few options. One, I can drive fewer miles a year. One is I can put some more cash down. The others, I might do a longer term, or maybe I switch from a retail finance to a lease. If you give them those options, I think the consumer will desk the deals 9 ways to Sunday and close themselves. But giving them other options and other things to add to it and take away from it, I think is, I don't think today's consumer is ready for that.
Got it. At the upcoming Digital Marketing Strategies Conference, it's our 10th annual show in Napa Valley. We're going to once again put consumers in front of dealership websites and ask them to lease a vehicle, go through the whole process, and we film it, and then we share at the conference where they left off. In last November, at our Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, very few people were able to complete it. I think it's going to take some time until consumers do it enough that, they're going to feel comfortable because listen, they don't do it that often, right?
Sure. It's not like Amazon. I don't know how you are. I am. It seems like almost every day I'm on my phone, clicking a button and buying something for my office or for my kids or for my wife or for whatever on Amazon, and it's a super easy process. We're just accustomed to it. But most people don't get cars every day. It's 3 to 4 or 5 years between purchases, and it's the second most expensive purchase most consumers make. So it's not like they get a ton of practice doing it.
Yeah, I would agree with you absolutely. So, Rusty, you mentioned your Engage product. So people who have been in the industry for a while knew you for your desking tool. Technology companies know you for their API. Let's talk about the Engage product.
Sure. So we look at the industry kind of as a triad, right? It's the lender, mainly the lender OEM. You can look at them as kind of one leg of the tripod or triad, the dealership and the consumer. And the lending institutions should be in a position where they can precisely target particular vehicles and particular markets for particular demographics. In order to be able to do that, they need to be able to analyze exactly how the outside world sees them, not so much how they see the outside world. Meaning that, we can put together a program that says, okay, we're going to put this residual value on this vehicle and this rate on this vehicle. But if we don't take everything else into consideration, our monthly payments that we're offering, trying to get this particular segment of the market, might be too high. So our Engage product gives them the ability to kind of play poker and see what everybody else's cards are. And it gives them the ability to target their products in such a way that they're earning the business they want, but they're paying the right price for it. They're not $300 a month too low. They're not missing it because they're $300 a month too high. They can position themselves exactly where they want to be. And then once they do that, if we can get that message to the consumer through digital retailing, not the complexities of it, but the results of the complexities of it, then the consumer says, yeah, I like that offer. And if that offer can be replicated in the store, in the finance office, then the whole process flows and works. And consumer gets a new vehicle, the OEM and the lending institution, they're targeting in the work that they've done to position themselves pays off, and the dealership gets a new sale.
Wow, I love that. I'm a data guy, and
yeah,
I recently purchased a car and looked at all the different the matrix of lending. I call it the Rubik's Cube. I mean, depending on which bank and what credit worthy class and what the trade was and all these, I was like, wow, who can possibly put this all in their head? So anything that could automate to provide clear insights on the best path forward, I think is awesome. So who's using Engage, Rusty?
So our very first M-Gauge customer was Cula, and actually kind of was built with them in mind. That's credit union, the credit union leasing company in San Diego.
Yep.
They've been a customer of ours for, gosh, I don't know, 25, 26 years, and they were using our desking tool forever. So we ended up building M-Gauge with their help. We've got Ally Financial and US Bank are some of the larger banks that are on it. A bunch of the other lending institutions that are on it, they won't let me talk about, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which doesn't help our marketing efforts much, but we're still we're still proud to have them in the portfolio. But the one that I think we probably have the most fun with is Ally Financial. They've got a team of people run by a gal named Erin Klopaski, she's very, very bright, but she's super aggressive, and they change their programs seemingly every 8 or 10 days. Some market, they'll see somebody doing something and they just they react immediately and come up with some kind of crazy program. And we work real closely with them. We get all their data pre-release, so we'll get it and have it staged, and it goes out at midnight Hawaii time, and their programs show up. But it's not a big space for us, because if we got everybody, we'd probably have 60 or 70 customers, that are actually realistic would want to use the tool. But it's a very fun space for us.
Yeah. So, Rusty, for the dealers who are listening to today's show, one of the key questions that I'm going to challenge them to ask is, who's powering your pricing engine? And it would seem to me that technology companies who are using mScan have a competitive edge on accuracy and robustness of the, I guess, deal options. Would you agree with me that dealers should be asking, almost like the Intel Inside logo, should it be mScan Inside?
Yeah, we'd love that. This space is absolutely inundated with kind of conflicting business models right now. All these different digital retailing companies that are coming out look at it from a completely different. Some of them from completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Is it credit first? Is it credit last? How much information do you want to share with a customer? All these different strategies all have merit. I get asked all the time, which one's right, and the answer is probably all of them, have something to bring to the table. It's just what's best fit for the consumer. And, we're big believers in taking all of the information in consideration. We got to take everything that has to do with credit from the lending institutions, and we track all that. We have to also take all the mathematics, rates, residuals, security deposit policies, bank fee programs, all that kind of stuff into consideration. We have to take all the OEM information, rebates, incentives, and everything. All the municipality information, taxes, and how they're implied. And I think the most overlooked segment, which is one of the most important ones, is the dealership class of data. We have to respect the terms and conditions under which the dealerships are willing to transact. What lending institutions are signed up with, what fees they charge, how they structure their transactions, what quoting rules they want to apply based on year, make, model, trim, lot age. All those elements have to come into play for the dealership. And if the dealership's not using technologies that are powered either by us or by some company that takes all that into consideration, then they're kind of at a disadvantage, because it's their payments, it's their inventory, so they should be getting their payments should be quoted their way. If a dealership's payments are wrong, if they're too high, they're going to miss business that they rightfully should earn, and if they're too low, then the consumer's expectations are mismanaged through digital retailing efforts, and it's unfair to the dealership as well.
So, since dealers may not be able to compare your services versus other people in your space, how would you quantify the amount of data and complexity of your calc engine compared to others? Are you 2, 3, 4, 10 times more robust in the data set that you have, giving you a clear competitive edge? How would you quantify it? Because someone could say, hey, listen, I'm the best, and they have, 50 dealers. And someone says, no, really, 50 dealers, that's really not enough. I serve 5,000. Oh man, you must have figured this out. When it comes to data and the complexity, how would you rate the really the data engine that you've built compared to other solutions out there?
It's a great question. It's taken us 3 decades to establish the relationships with the different OEMs and the different lending institutions, and it's also taken us, a whole lot of man hours and lots of millions of dollars to develop the technology to aggregate all this information electronically. If you take say a hypothetical data set, which would be a combined data set of all of our major competitors, and there's 5 or 6 out there, that combined data set makes up maybe 10% of the actual data that we track. And it's not because we track a whole lot more programs than everybody else, which we probably do track more programs than a lot of the other companies, but it's all the other elements of the programs. There's a lot of companies out there that provide rates, residual values, incentives, and rebates, but it's all of the other elements that have to be taken into consideration to calculate a penny certain payment. It's all the hard numbers from the lending institutions, which are the rates and the residual values and all the other stuff we mentioned. It's also all the soft numbers, which are all the published buying policies and practices as they relate to credit. So we can take all of those elements into consideration. Everything from even a combined 3 credit bureau pull, we can take into consideration and pre-screen and kind of almost pre-approve which lending institutions are going to accept the transaction. And all the OEM data we track is massive. You look at Chrysler. We love Chrysler Capital or Chrysler as an OEM because their rebates and incentives are all over the map, and they've got some really cool ones. They had one for a while that was National Funeral Directors Association, where if you were an undertaker, you got an extra $500. We track all that kind of stuff.
You got to take care of the people who are putting us under, right?
That's right. The one piece that sets us apart more than anything else is we're not a data provider. I mean, we're a data aggregator, and we have products where we provide data, but our bulk of the business that we do is as a calculation engine. We have a complete suite of calls that are surfaced through our API product, or mScan API product, that does all the heavy lifting for any of the digital retailing companies that are out there. And we can take a VIN from a vehicle and a scenario. Like I've got, my customer wants multiple lease payments and multiple finance payments on this particular vehicle. Once we have that VIN, we know which dealership has that VIN in stock. We know all the quoting rules associated with that VIN. Based on year, make, model, trim, and lot age. We know what lending institutions are signed up with. We know what fees they charge. And if we know the zip code that the consumer is going to register that vehicle in, we already know the zip code where the dealership resides because we know where the inventory was. We can calculate all of the taxations, all the rebates, incentives, everything. And that's the biggest advantage that we've got right now. And that was a kind of a vision we had a long, long time ago. And then up until 4 or 5 years ago, the technology really didn't exist for us to be able to do it. And when cloud services really got working, we're like, wow, this is an opportunity. And we jumped on it, and it's been fantastic.
Well, Rusty, not too many people can say they've been in the automotive tech business for 30 years, and it's exciting to see you staying relevant and innovating and leveraging your data management and relationships to provide the pipe work that digital retailing needs to present consumers with consistent penny perfect payments. So, Rusty, if a digital retailing company is interested in doing business with you or a lending institution, where's the best place for them to go for information and to talk to your team?
Just www.marketscan.com is our website, and then 800 MKTSCAN is our 800 number. But our website's probably the best way. There's links for the different teams. If it's a lending institution, there's links to our mGauge team, and API, there's links to our mScan API team, and obviously our dealer facing, there's lots of links there as well. So just go to the website. We'd love to talk to you.
Rusty, before we leave today's podcast, I always like to ask our guests about what's coming in the future. What can you share first to market news that might interest dealers who are on today's podcast?
So we've done this technological collaboration with Stone Eagle. Stone Eagle has a tremendous amount of data regarding all the transactions that dealerships do on a daily basis and what their F&I penetration is. And they've got some great analytic tools, a product called Secure Metrics that lets the dealership look and see which F&I managers are very successful in getting F&I product penetration, and which ones aren't. And having that data gives us, that data includes all the information about the transaction. So it gives us the ability to take each one of those transactions and run a diagnostics on it against our data set. We maintain a historical data set, so even if we get into a store, we can analyze, even 60 days back. We know what all the entire industry's data looked like at the time that transaction happened. We can look to see if there were any overlooked opportunities, where maybe there was a different structure at the same lending institution. There's sometimes a standard program. The standard rate with the high rebate is a better program than the subvented rate with a low rebate. It could be that they could have done a different term, maybe a shorter term at the same payment. It could be a different lending institution. There's a whole bunch of different ways that opportunities might have presented themselves. And this gives the dealerships the ability to diagnose every transaction they did and make sure they didn't leave any money on the table. And if they did, how they can prevent from doing that in the future. So it's a product we're very excited about, and we're really proud to be working with Stone Eagle. They've got some great technologies. They're very, very bright people.
So what I'm understanding is, based on historical decisions, you could help retrain the dealership to increase their profits based on their own data, not some national study.
Exactly. It's very, very granular. It's down to the actual transaction. And we look at it kind of the yin and the yang, right? If a dealership's using our desking tool, or they're using a desking tool in their dealership that's powered by our mScan API product, there really shouldn't be much room for improvement. That's the whole premise behind our products, is scientifically perfect solutions to each transaction. And so if they're using it properly, then the diagnostics should just prove that, hey, things are good. But one of the things that we have been running across in the last 3 decades of doing this is it's not uncommon for there to be a lot of turnover in the dealership at the desk. And a lot of times the new broom sweeps clean and they don't use the tools that the dealership's paying for. All of a sudden now we see a whole bunch of opportunities showing up because we're not analyzing every transaction on the fly as it's happening. You look at it as, okay, how do I correct it? And then it's like an insurance policy to make sure that we're taking advantage of the tools that we're paying for.
I love that phrase, the new broom sweeps clean. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a general manager comes in and, would just fire all the digital marketing folks because that was the previous guy's decision. So I understand that completely. So we're going to look forward to having you on in the future, talk a little bit about this mProve, what the results look like. Maybe we can get some dealer case studies on, because dealers are looking for ways to save money. And this could be a way to find gold in the rubble of data for dealers to get better, wouldn't you say?
100%. And we're right now starting to do some preliminary analytics. The product's going to be launched very, very soon. And it's going to be very entertaining, I think, for us as an organization to see exactly how much money is left on the table. We've found some dealers that are just killing it, and they're not leaving a whole lot of money on the table. And a lot of those dealers are customers of ours on our desking tool, which made us feel really good. We've also seen dealers where the average amount of money per transaction left on the table was over $600. And
Wow.
These are stores that are doing 400 units a month. So it's the whole gamut. So we're kind of curious to see what the actual average is going to look like once we get thousands of stores where we're analyzing this information. It's going to be very telling.
Well, Rusty, thank you so much for being on today's show. If this is the first time you're listening to one of our podcasts, you'll be pleased to know that this is one in a series of interviews with thought leaders and innovators in automotive who are trying to create a modern retail experience. So check on the website for all the episodes. There'll be 20 in all. Started in April, we'll go all the way through to July. If you're interested in this topic, well, we've gathered all the key players to talk about their vision, their role, and what the future of automotive retail looks like. We also look forward to hosting dealers and technology leaders at the 2019 Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, which will be in November in Palm Beach at the beautiful Breakers Hotel. Conference is for data-driven solutions providers. It's for dealers and dealer groups who are looking to understand marketing, analytics, and attribution, and of course, digital retailing which is connecting the online experience to the in-store experience, which dealers have been asking for years. So make sure you go to automotiveattributionsummit.com and get your team registered for this very innovative conference. We look forward to sharing interviews and insights for the automotive industry. Every Monday, we release a new podcast. So come back, join us again for a future podcast, and I look forward to spending time with you in the future.